The first police car rolled up so quietly that the neighbor across the street did not notice it until the headlights washed over the Johnsons' front porch. It was late evening. The neighborhood was calm in that polished way, lawns trimmed into obedience, porch lights timed, sprinklers set to whisper. Inside the Johnson house, the only loud thing was the dishwasher finishing its cycle, that final hollow gurgle that always sounded like it was complaining. Malik Johnson opened the door because he assumed it was a neighbor with a misdelivered package. He saw two white officers on the walkway, both standing a little too wide, hands near their belts, eyes already narrowed. The older one spoke first, voice flat, routine, like reading from a mental script. A noise complaint, multiple calls, ongoing disturbance. Malik's face did not match the words. He was wearing sweatpants and a plain shirt. His hair was damp from a shower. The house behind him was dim and quiet. A child's cartoon played low in the background, barely audible at the threshold. Asha appeared behind him, one hand resting on the door frame, the other holding a dish towel. Her eyes moved from the officers to Malik's shoulders to the street, searching for the obvious party that did not exist. Malik asked what they were hearing. He asked what time the complaint was made. He asked if there was an address mix-up. His voice stayed low and controlled because the situation did not allow anything else. The younger officer stepped closer and asked Malik to step outside. That request was small, but it was the first hinge. Malik stepped onto the porch, careful and deliberate, hands visible. The officers asked if there were speakers, if there was alcohol, if there were guests. The questions felt like they belonged to a different house on a different night. Malik told them his kids were asleep. He told them the television was barely on. He pointed out the closed windows. He offered to walk them around the side yard so they could hear for themselves. Renee filed an emergency motion for preservation and requested a court order compelling the HOA and management company to preserve all communications immediately and produce them. A judge signed a preservation order. The order was simple and powerful. Do not delete. Do not overwrite. Preserve all communications relating to the Johnsons and the alleged noise complaints. The HOA could no longer pretend this was casual. They had to comply. A week later, the first production arrived. It was thin, redacted, missing threads. The HOA tried to comply in appearance while withholding substance. Renee reviewed the files and noticed gaps. The timeline did not match. Some email chains jumped. Some messages referenced attachments that were not provided. Some messages mentioned earlier discussions that were absent. Renee filed a motion to compel a full, unredacted production. The court scheduled another hearing. This time, the HOA's attorney sounded less confident. The HOA had shifted from controlling a neighborhood narrative to answering to a judge. Malik and Asha sat with Renee in a small conference room before the hearing, looking at the evidence stack. Asha's hands were cold. She asked what would happen if the HOA produced emails that made them look worse. Renee said the court could impose sanctions. The court could award attorney fees. The court could order policy changes. The court could restrain the HOA from enforcement. The court could refer conduct for further review. Renee also said something else. If the emails showed coordinated targeting, the case could become bigger than an HOA dispute. It could become a civil rights case. It could become a pattern. Malik felt both fear and relief. Fear, because bigger meant more fight. Relief, because bigger meant truth had weight. The second production arrived the day before the hearing. This time the file before I don't know. Bimal was larger. Hundreds of messages, subject lines, threads, forward chains. Renee did not read them all at once. It was about having his ordinary life recast as disruption. The officers left with a warning that did not sound like a warning. It sounded like a preface. The police car pulled away, and the neighborhood returned to quiet, as if nothing happened. Inside the house, Asha turned the television off completely. The silence felt heavier than before, not peaceful, more like a test. Malik walked through the living room and checked the windows again. He checked the back door. He looked at the thermostat, the way people do when they want something concrete to look at. Their youngest stirred in the hallway and called for water, voice sleepy and small. Malik went to the kitchen, filled a cup, and stood by the sink a moment longer than needed, watching the faucet drip after he shut it off. He knew what a single complaint could do. He also knew what repeated complaints could do when someone with power decided to turn them into a file. The next morning, a violation notice appeared in their email inbox with the HOA letterhead at the top, formal language, cold structure. The message referenced the police visit. It described a nuisance. It warned about fines. It hinted at further enforcement. It ended with a line about community standards and neighbors' rights to quiet enjoyment. It was written like a summary of a reality the Johnsons did not live in. Asha read it twice, then read it again slower, like the words might change if she gave them enough time. Malik called the property management company listed in the footer. He asked to speak with someone who could explain the complaint and provide evidence. The receptionist transferred him, then transferred him again, then left him in a hold queue with soft music that sounded like it was designed to make people give up. When someone finally answered, the voice on the other end sounded bored, as if Malik had interrupted a day of more important interruptions. The manager explained that the HOA had received multiple neighbor reports about loud music and late-night activity. The manager explained that police involvement made it serious. The manager explained that the HOA had a duty to respond. Malik asked for specifics: who, when, where, what evidence, what decibel reading, what video, what officer report number. The manager said the HOA protected the privacy of complaining neighbors. Malik asked how he was supposed to correct a claim he could not examine. The manager repeated the privacy line and suggested Malik be more mindful of noise. Mindful. It was the kind of word that turned an accusation into advice, as if Malik was simply careless. Malik ended the call and stared at the phone in his hand. Asha moved around him quietly, packing lunches, setting out backpacks, keeping their kids' morning normal on purpose. When the kids left for school, the house became still again. Asha asked a question in a voice that tried to sound casual and failed. How many of these complaints could turn into something worse? Malik did not answer quickly because he did not want to frighten her, but he did not want to lie either. He knew HOAs could levy fines. He knew they could place liens. He knew they could issue suspension notices for community amenities. He knew they could involve attorneys. He knew they could turn the phrase ongoing nuisance into something a judge had to read. He also knew that a paper trail could become its own kind of proof, even when the original event was thin air. The second police visit came 3 nights later. Same quiet street, same calm house, same 2 officers, or maybe different. Malik could not tell at first because uniforms blurred together when they arrived with the same posture. This time, the younger officer spoke faster, more impatient. The complaint was ongoing. The complainant reported loud bass and yelling. The officers asked Malik to identify everyone in the house. Malik felt something cold slide down his spine. Identify everyone. That was not a noise question. That was a control question. He complied anyway. He told them his wife and children were inside. He told them no guests were present. He offered again to let them listen near the windows, to walk the yard and confirm that nothing was happening. The younger officer glanced at the older one. The older one looked past Malik's shoulder into the house, eyes scanning, searching for a reason. Malik heard his own pulse. Asha stood in the hallway behind him, keeping distance, hands visible, face tight with a kind of calm that had been earned, not given. The older officer asked if the Johnsons had any security cameras. Malik said they had a doorbell camera. The older officer asked if Malik could provide footage that night showing what was happening. That question was the first practical thing anyone had said. Malik nodded and told him he could. The officers left again without stepping inside. Another warning. Another line added to an invisible file. That night, Malik pulled the doorbell app up and scrolled through clips. He exported the time window around the police visit. He saved it twice. He emailed it to himself. He put it in a folder on his laptop. He did not know yet who he was collecting evidence for. He only knew he needed to collect it before someone else controlled the story. Asha sat beside him at the table and watched the clips with him. The footage showed quiet. It showed Malik stepping outside. It showed calm voices. It showed no party, no guests, no shouting. It showed a house being accused of being loud while it remained still. Asha asked whether the HOA had to accept this as proof. Malik said he did not know. He said they would send it anyway. The next morning, Malik wrote an email to the HOA board address listed in the community directory. He attached the clips and described the timeline in plain language. He asked for the identity of the complaining neighbor to be kept private if needed, but he asked for concrete details of the allegation and evidence supporting it. He asked for a meeting. He asked for fairness. He did not ask for sympathy. Hours later, the HOA board president responded. The response was short. It did not reference the video in a meaningful way. It stated that the board had received concerns from multiple residents. It stated that continued violations would result in fines. It suggested Malik's footage did not capture what neighbors could hear from inside their homes. It ended with a reminder about community standards. Asha read the response and laughed once, sharp and humorless, then covered her mouth as if laughter itself could be used against them. Malik did not laugh. Malik opened a new document and started a log. Date, time, police visit, what was happening inside the house, which devices were on, which windows were open, which rooms had light. He also logged every email and every notice. He saved them as PDFs. He organized them with clean file names. He did not know yet that one of these files would become the story's hinge. He only knew that a calm house was being described as a problem, and calm did not protect you from a system that wanted to move. A week later, the fines started. The notice came as an automated email with a line item attached, describing an incident date and a penalty amount. The number itself did not matter as much as the structure. A fine meant the HOA had moved from warnings into enforcement. Asha stared at the email and asked Malik if paying it would make it stop. Malik hesitated because the honest answer was complicated. Paying could look like admission. Not paying could escalate. Disputing could provoke. Ignoring could become a lien. The HOA had options, and those options were not designed for fairness. They were designed for compliance. Malik wrote back, disputing the fine and asking for a hearing under the HOA's dispute process. The board scheduled a hearing for the following week in the clubhouse meeting room. The clubhouse was a neutral building in theory. In practice, it felt like walking into a place where you were already expected to be wrong. Malik and Asha arrived early. They dressed neatly, not formal, but deliberate. Malik brought a binder. Asha brought a folder. They brought printed stills from the doorbell camera and a timeline of police visits and household activities. The board members sat behind a folding table, 3 white faces and 1 white property manager. The board president smiled a small smile that did not reach her eyes. The property manager spoke first and summarized the situation as ongoing disturbances, repeated complaints, police involvement, and the HOA's obligation to protect residents' peace. Malik presented his evidence calmly. He did not accuse anyone of lying outright. He showed the clips. He showed the timestamps. He showed the quiet. The board president responded with the same line, that neighbors could still hear noise and that the camera did not capture everything. Asha asked what specific noise was being described. Bass. Yelling. Music. Arguments. The board president said she did not have to provide details beyond confirming that multiple complaints existed. Asha asked how multiple complaints could be verified without details, without any corroborating evidence, without anyone ever approaching the Johnsons directly before calling police. The board president's tone turned firmer. The board was not required to reveal complainant identities. Malik asked whether the board had any evidence of their own, any record of decibel checks, any security patrol notes, any community camera footage, anything beyond complaints. The property manager said the board relied on residents. Malik noticed how the room treated resident statements as evidence, but treated Malik's video as incomplete. He noticed that asymmetry in his bones. When the hearing ended, the board voted to uphold the fine. The decision was written up in a short notice with a line about future enforcement. Malik and Asha walked out into sunlight that felt too bright. In the parking lot, a white neighbor who had watched the hearing from a distance turned away quickly when Malik looked over. Malik felt something click into place. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a campaign. The third police visit came after midnight on a weekend. The call was placed at a time when the neighborhood felt empty, when the streetlights made everything look staged, when silence could be interpreted as anything by someone determined. This time, officers arrived with sharper posture. The complaint alleged an active disturbance. When Malik opened the door, the younger officer asked him to step outside immediately. Malik complied again. He felt anger rising, but he kept it contained because anger was the fuel other people used to justify force. Asha came to the doorway, eyes wide, whispering to Malik to stay calm. The younger officer told Malik that the caller claimed there were multiple guests and loud yelling. The officer told Malik he needed to confirm the number of occupants. Malik stated that only his family was inside. He offered again to show the officers the inside of the house, to demonstrate no party was occurring, to show that the children were asleep. The younger officer declined and demanded identification. Demanded, not requested. Malik felt a line being crossed. He also felt the trap. Refusal could become non-compliance. Non-compliance could become disorderly conduct. Disorderly conduct could become arrest. Malik stepped inside for his wallet slowly, announcing each movement with careful calm, keeping his hands visible when he returned. He handed over his license. The younger officer looked at it longer than necessary. The older officer asked about the HOA. Malik said the HOA was fining them based on complaints, and the police visits were being used as justification. The older officer's eyes tightened. He asked if Malik believed the HOA was calling police. Malik did not answer quickly. He did not have proof yet. He had suspicion, and suspicion could not protect him in a report. He said he did not know who was calling. He said he wanted the officers to note that the house was quiet and that the complaint did not match conditions at the scene. The older officer nodded slightly. The younger officer looked irritated again, as if the reality was inconveniencing the script. They left, and the street went quiet again. Asha shut the door and leaned against it for a moment, breathing hard. She said something simple, and it landed like a brick. This is going to get someone hurt. She did not mean physically. She meant in the way a system could crush a family. She meant job, credit, reputation, safety, stress. The next morning, Malik's supervisor texted him asking if everything was okay. Malik's stomach dropped. The school district where Malik worked had a culture of rumor. Maintenance staff saw patrol cars, people talked, people forwarded posts. Even if Malik did his job perfectly, a whisper could become a review. Malik told his supervisor there had been false complaints and police visits, and he was handling it. His supervisor responded politely, then asked whether Malik needed time off. Malik understood the coded layer. This was now a workplace risk. That same day, a post appeared on the HOA community app. It did not use Malik's name. It described a home on the Johnson Street as a constant disturbance, with late-night noise and suspicious activity. It urged residents to report every incident. It implied that the HOA needed stronger enforcement. The comments were the worst part. Not explicit slurs, not overt hate. Something colder and more damaging. Words like safety, words like pattern, words like behavior, words like always. One commenter suggested calling police every time. Another suggested notifying the school district. Asha read the post and went still. They had been turned into a public story inside a private neighborhood. Malik clicked through the app and saved screenshots. He saved the post. He saved the comments. He saved the usernames. He added them to his file. Now the story had a new shape. This was not just about noise, it was about narrative. Malik contacted a local attorney whose name he found through a church friend. a civil rights lawyer named Renee Carter, who had handled HOA disputes and false report cases before. Renee did not promise miracles. She promised process. Renee asked for the documentation. Malik sent the log, the notices, the fines, the doorbell footage clips, the app screenshots, and the email thread with the board president. Renee called Malik back the next day and asked him a question that made his throat tighten. Did the HOA have access to his work schedule? Malik asked what she meant. Renee explained that the complaints seemed to land at times designed to maximize damage. Late nights, weekends, moments when children were asleep, moments when a police visit would be more alarming, moments when a rumor could spread. Renee asked whether Malik had ever provided the HOA with emergency contact information that included his employer, or whether the property manager had access to employment information from the homeowner application. Malik remembered the closing paperwork, the HOA welcome packet, the form requesting contact details. He realized something then. The HOA knew enough to target. Renee explained the next steps, and her tone turned practical and sharp. First, demand evidence formally. Second, demand preservation of HOA communications. Third, if needed, file suit for harassment, discrimination, and abuse of HOA enforcement authority. Fourth, seek a court order preventing further enforcement without verified evidence. She also explained a danger Malik had not considered. Email logs. HOAs lived on email. Boards coordinated in chains. Property managers documented everything. If the HOA had coordinated a strategy, it would be in writing somewhere, even if they thought it was informal. Renee told Malik to stop relying on goodwill and to start relying on discovery. That word changed the air in Malik's kitchen. Discovery meant the case would move into a space where people had to turn over records, where privacy excuses got weaker, where a judge could order disclosure. Malik asked if it would get worse before it got better. Renee told him yes. The following week, Renee sent a formal demand letter to the HOA and the management company. The letter was precise. It referenced the pattern of complaints, the lack of corroborating evidence, the absence of due process, and the public posts encouraging repeated police calls. It demanded the HOA cease enforcement based on unverified complaints. It demanded a hearing with clear evidence. It demanded that all related communications be preserved, including emails, internal messages, and app moderation logs. Preservation language mattered. It put the HOA on notice that deleting records could become its own violation. The HOA responded through its own attorney. The response was polite and chilling. It denied wrongdoing. It claimed the HOA was enforcing neutral rules. It suggested Malik was being unreasonable. It offered a settlement. The settlement included a condition, a confidentiality clause. Renee explained what that meant in plain language. The HOA wanted to make the problem disappear quietly. The HOA wanted to fine less, maybe forgive a portion, maybe stop enforcement temporarily, but only if Malik agreed not to speak about it and not to pursue further action. Malik understood the trap instantly. A quiet settlement would protect his family short-term. It would also protect the HOA's ability to do this to someone else. Asha leaned toward taking it, not because she wanted silence, but because she wanted breathing room. Malik looked at his kids at the table, eating cereal, unaware. He told Renee they would not sign away their voice. Renee warned Malik the HOA might escalate. 2 days later, the HOA escalated. A formal notice arrived stating that the Johnsons were being suspended from community amenities for repeated violations. The pool, the clubhouse, the playground reservation system. It was petty in one way and powerful in another. It was a social marker. It told the neighborhood that the Johnsons were trouble. Asha's face hardened when she read it. Their oldest had been excited about swim lessons. Their youngest had begged for the pool on hot afternoons. Now the HOA had weaponized the children. Then the HOA went further. A letter arrived announcing an intent to place a lien for unpaid fines and legal fees. The words were sterile. The effect was brutal. A lien meant future refinancing would be harder. A lien meant credit. A lien meant pressure. Malik felt the system's teeth. Renee filed suit. The complaint was careful. It alleged harassment, abuse of HOA authority, and discriminatory selective enforcement. It cited the pattern of false complaints, the lack of evidence, the reliance on police visits as proof, and the app posts encouraging targeted reporting. Renee also filed a motion seeking a temporary restraining order to stop enforcement and stop further police calls coordinated through HOA channels. The court scheduled a hearing. Between filing and hearing, the pressure increased again. Another police visit happened, and this one turned into a public moment. The call came during the early evening when neighbors were still outside. A family across the street was unloading a car. A teenager was walking a dog. People had sightlines. When officers arrived, the younger officer approached Malik with impatience and asked him to step outside. Malik complied. The officer stated the complaint alleged yelling and loud music. Malik gestured toward the quiet house and asked the officer to listen. The officer did not pause. The officer instructed Malik to place his hands behind his back. Malik froze. Asha stepped onto the porch and lifted both hands, palms out, as if she could physically hold the moment in place. Malik asked why he was being restrained. He asked what he had done. He asked whether the officer could verify sound before escalating. The officer stated Malik was interfering with an investigation. That phrase was a technicality. It was a trap door. Malik had seen people arrested for less. He knew that the line between compliance and interference was often drawn by emotion, not law. Malik placed his hands behind his back slowly. The handcuffs closed, and this time the neighborhood watched. A neighbor across the street lifted a phone and started recording. Another neighbor stood on their porch with arms crossed. Malik's face stayed controlled. His chest burned, his wrists tightened. The humiliation was physical. The older officer arrived at the porch and looked into the house. He listened. He looked at Asha, then at the kids peeking from the hallway with wide eyes. The older officer asked the younger officer what the probable cause was. The younger officer gestured toward Malik and referenced the complaint history. History, not evidence. History created by complaints. The older officer asked the younger officer to remove the cuffs. The younger officer hesitated. The older officer repeated the instruction. The cuffs came off. Malik's wrists showed red marks instantly. The older officer asked Malik to file a report of false complaints and to provide his doorbell footage. The older officer also asked Malik quietly whether the HOA was involved. Malik said he could not prove it yet. The older officer nodded once, and Malik saw a look that was not sympathy, but recognition. That evening, the video of Malik being cuffed on his porch spread through the HOA app. The same people who talked about safety now talked about escalation. Some commented that police would not cuff someone without reason. Others said it looked wrong. Malik saved those screenshots too. The hearing date approached with a new urgency. Renee explained that the HOA's app and email records were critical now. The public cuffing had created a narrative the HOA could use to justify enforcement. The only way to break that narrative was proof of coordination. Renee issued discovery requests. The HOA responded with objections. They claimed communications were privileged. They claimed relevance issues. They claimed privacy concerns. Renee pushed back. She demanded board emails discussing the Johnsons. She demanded communications with the management company. She demanded app moderation records and any internal discussion about encouraging reports. She demanded any coordination with police. The HOA attorney stalled. Stalling was also a strategy. The longer the HOA could drag this out, the more pressure the Johnsons felt. Money, stress, fear, time. Then Renee discovered something that turned delay into danger. The management company used an email retention policy that automatically deleted older emails unless archived. The policy existed to save storage and reduce liability. Emails rotated out after a set period. Renee recognized the risk. If they waited too long, the truth could be overwritten by policy. Renee filed an emergency motion for preservation and requested a court order compelling the HOA and management company to preserve all communications immediately and produce them. A judge signed a preservation order. The order was simple and powerful. Do not delete. Do not overwrite. Preserve all communications relating to the Johnsons and the alleged noise complaints. The HOA could no longer pretend this was casual. They had to comply. A week later, the first production arrived. It was thin, redacted, missing threads. The HOA tried to comply in appearance while withholding substance. Renee reviewed the files and noticed gaps. The timeline did not match. Some email chains jumped. Some messages referenced attachments that were not provided. Some messages mentioned earlier discussions that were absent. Renee filed a motion to compel a full, unredacted production. The court scheduled another hearing. This time, the HOA's attorney sounded less confident. The HOA had shifted from controlling a neighborhood narrative to answering to a judge. Malik and Asha sat with Renee in a small conference room before the hearing, looking at the evidence stack. Asha's hands were cold. She asked what would happen if the HOA produced emails that made them look worse. Renee said the court could impose sanctions. The court could award attorney fees. The court could order policy changes. The court could restrain the HOA from enforcement. The court could refer conduct for further review. Renee also said something else. If the emails showed coordinated targeting, the case could become bigger than an HOA dispute. It could become a civil rights case. It could become a pattern. Malik felt both fear and relief. Fear, because bigger meant more fight. Relief, because bigger meant truth, had weight. The second production arrived the day before the hearing. This time, the file set was larger. Hundreds of messages, subject lines, threads, forward chains. Renee did not read them all at once. She searched. She searched for Malik's name. She searched for Asha's name. She searched for their address. She searched for the word noise. She searched for police. She searched for report. She searched for strategy. Then she found the thread. It was a chain among board members and the property manager. It started with a message complaining about the Johnsons' presence, not their sound. The language was careful, but the meaning was clear. References to the neighborhood image, references to certain kinds of families, references to protecting property values, references to stopping problems early. Then it moved into tactics. The property manager suggested documenting complaints in a consistent format. The board president suggested encouraging neighbors to call police rather than confronting the Johnsons directly. Someone suggested that police visits created a record that was hard to fight. The phrase "hard to fight" was not written, but the idea was. Then came the line that changed everything. A board member wrote that if they could get enough police contacts on file, the HOA could justify fines and force compliance, and if the Johnsons resisted, the HOA could move toward a lien. They discussed timing. They discussed who would call. They discussed keeping the complainant identities private. They discussed using the app to keep residents reporting. They also discussed the children, casually, as leverage. One message suggested that families would fold quickly when amenities were removed and social pressure increased. Renee read the thread twice. Then she printed it. Malik stared at the words and felt his stomach turn. It was all there. The noise complaint was not a complaint. It was a tool. The police calls were not concern. They were a method. The board had used the system as a weapon and described it like a spreadsheet plan. The next morning, the courtroom felt colder than it should have. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, quiet rustle of paper, the sound of shoes on tile. The HOA board president sat at one table with the HOA attorney. The property manager sat behind them, face tight, trying to look neutral. Malik and Asha sat with Renee at the other table. Malik wore a simple suit. Asha wore a plain blouse and a jacket. Their posture was controlled, but their eyes showed fatigue. The judge entered and reviewed the filings. Renee did not begin with morality. She began with procedure. She explained the pattern of police calls. She explained the lack of corroborating evidence. She explained the HOA's enforcement actions. She explained the attempted confidentiality settlement. She explained the preservation risk with email retention. She explained the initial incomplete production. Then she asked the court's permission to present the HOA's own communications. The judge allowed it. Renee handed up the printed chain. The judge read silently at first. Then the judge's expression changed in a way that was easy to see even from a distance. Not outrage as theater, focus, disbelief that hardened into clarity. The judge asked the HOA attorney whether the email chain was authentic. The HOA attorney attempted to argue context, attempted to argue interpretation, attempted to argue privilege. Renee pointed to the preservation order. She pointed to the production metadata. She pointed to the fact that the HOA produced the emails themselves. The judge asked the HOA attorney again, simpler. Was it authentic? The HOA attorney conceded authenticity. The courtroom air changed. The judge asked the board president whether the board encouraged residents to call police. The board president attempted to describe it as residents making their own choices. Renee pointed to the emails. The board president's own words were on the page. The judge asked about the phrase concerning building a record through police contacts. The board president tried to say it was about safety. The judge asked why safety required planning to use lien threads. The board president did not answer cleanly. The judge asked about the settlement with confidentiality. The HOA attorney attempted to frame it as routine. The judge asked why a routine settlement required silence if the HOA was confident it acted properly. The judge then asked the question that made the board president's face tighten. If the problem was noise, where was the noise evidence? No decibel readings, no recordings, no neutral verification, no third-party inspection, only complaints, only police visits, only the HOA app, only a plan to turn accusations into paper. The judge looked at Malik and Asha, then back at the board. The judge ordered immediate injunctive relief. The HOA was barred from issuing further fines or enforcement actions against the Johnsons based on noise allegations without objective verification. The judge ordered the HOA to remove the amenity suspension. The judge also ordered sanctions related to discovery misconduct and incomplete production. Then the judge addressed the more serious issue. The judge stated that the email chains suggested intentional targeting and abuse of enforcement authority. The judge directed that the record be preserved for potential further action, including referral for review under applicable fair housing standards, depending on the facts. The HOA attorney asked for a recess. The judge denied it. The board president's hands shook slightly as she tried to organize papers that did not want to be organized. Outside the courtroom, in the hallway, the HOA attorney approached Renee with a new settlement offer. This time, no confidentiality clause. This time, an apology letter. This time, full fine reversal. This time, attorney fees paid. Renee listened, then asked for one more thing. A written retraction in the HOA app and an instruction to residents that false reports and coordinated police calls would not be tolerated, and that future complaints would be handled through a verified process. The HOA attorney hesitated. The HOA attorney said the board would not like that. Renee said that was the point. Malik stood beside Asha and felt something unfamiliar. Not victory exactly. Space. Space to breathe without waiting for headlights. They returned home that afternoon and found the neighborhood unchanged in appearance. Same trimmed lawns, same quiet sidewalks, same small waves from people who did not know whether to wave. But Malik felt the ground shift anyway. The HOA did not have the same power now. The power had moved into a file that the board could not erase. The next week, the HOA app displayed a message pinned to the top of the feed. It was written in careful legal language, but it was still a retraction. It stated that prior posts about the Johnson home were unverified. It stated that residents should not contact law enforcement for neighborhood disputes without a clear emergency. It stated that the HOA would implement a verified complaint process and would not base enforcement on anonymous claims alone. The comments were suddenly quieter. Some residents apologized privately. Some stayed silent. Some blamed the board. The board president resigned within a month, officially for personal reasons, unofficially because the neighborhood had learned what she was willing to do behind email subject lines. The management company replaced the property manager and announced a new retention policy for HOA records that prevented quiet deletion during disputes. Malik's job stabilized again. His supervisor, who had been polite but cautious, told Malik the district had reviewed the situation and considered it resolved. Asha slept through a night without waking up to check the windows. Their children went back to the pool on a hot day and acted like nothing had happened, which was the cleanest kind of healing. But Malik did not forget the handcuffs on his porch. He did not forget how quickly a routine noise complaint turned into a public restraint. He did not forget the cold efficiency of an email plan to build a record. He also did not forget how fragile truth was until it was preserved. If Renee had not moved fast on retention, the thread could have been overwritten. If the judge had not ordered preservation, the board might have lost emails in convenient ways. If Malik had not kept his own log, the timeline would have belonged to the HOA. The story did not end with a dramatic celebration. It ended with something quieter and more real. A family stayed in their home. A system was forced to admit what it had done. And a set of emails, written casually by people who thought they were untouchable, became the thing that finally spoke louder than any complaint. Not because the Johnsons were loud, because the truth, once printed and read by a judge, could not be muted.